It's because we have sound now. Do we have sound now? All right. All right.
You're listening to Smashing the Party. This is your host, Nate Baumberger.
Welcome, Smashing the Party. This is Nightcap. My name's Nate Baumberger. More Kamala, Belle. More Kamala, Belle. I'm saying it like Donald Trump. Listen, welcome to the show tonight. Hey, I'm feeling great tonight. Just want to say, I know people have been inboxing me about my tinnitus. If you suffer from tinnitus, it is fucking absolute hell. But I'm doing great. So I wanted to just give you a real quick update so you know that I'm clear-headed today. But I wanted to talk about Kamala Harris. Right now, she's still doing a fantastic job of sucking the oxygen out of the room from Donald Trump, which normally we're on this show talking about how Donald Trump sucks all the oxygen out of the room. However, Kamala Harris's campaign's doing a good job. And in this case, it's not a bad thing. It's finally... Actually, she's putting oxygen back in the room, let's just say, because the Trump campaign is struggling to figure out how to deal with this woman candidate when they've spent all their time building up their media, their merchandise. Go Brandon, Creepy Joe, Old Joe. And they were really excited about this young and vibrant Trump compared to Joe Biden, and this being the narrative the whole way to the election campaign about Sleepy Joe. And they're lost right now because the Democrats, in a move that will be hailed as genius by political scientists in the future, unified their party within a snap of a finger behind Kamala Harris, and the Republicans don't know what the fuck's going on. So I wanted to talk about her today because the narrative right now is that she's not done anything. And I can't imagine if this were my daughter or my aunt or my grandma and somebody's like, yeah, what's your grandma do? Oh, she's vice president of the United States. Oh, wow, she ain't shit. She ain't done anything, right? And so then there's this narrative that people are talking about the fact that she's a DEI hire, and this is still going on. It's less subtle now. At first, they came out of the gate saying, yeah, she's black, she's only hired by her race. And they were like, whoa. Their political consultants were like, yo, you gotta dog whistle that shit. You can't just say it clearly like that. And so they've now said things like she's a ding dong is one of the lines of attack they have, as well as she's undeserving. And so this is really the same attack, except they just use words that are more comfortable in their veiled attacks on her race. So, for instance, she's undeserving of it suggests that she's acquired that position because of some attribute or some skill that she doesn't or does have. It's crazy. So this then becomes sexual in nature, and Republicans, including women, I see women talking about how she's blown her way to the top and using language like, oh, well, she hasn't really done anything except, slept her way to the top. And it's like, wait a second. Like, this is the narrative. You don't know. First, in one statement, you're saying we don't know anything about her. She's been VP of the United States for a while. The second time, you're saying, oh, she was in charge of all this border control. She was the border czar. And then you're saying she's not accomplished. So she's either, maybe she's an unaccomplished border czar. I don't understand. But then you take away all that by saying, you know what? Everything she's accomplished is done because of, and you throw out that it's due to her sexual innuendos or her sexual conquests, as if she's slept her way to the top. This is the narrative so far that they've got on Kamala Harris. Then they go and say, well, she's not done anything. And then one of the narratives is like, well, go ahead and ask one of the supporters what she's done for the country. And so you could do the same thing for anybody. You could say that to Trump supporters and say, hey, what has Trump done for the country? And they're going to make something up where they might not know. But this is a litmus test that they're using to test whether or not Kamala Harris is qualified. This is the same folks that elected Donald Trump, who has zero political experience. The only experience he had is running businesses, scam businesses, mind you, and running an entertainment empire with his kind of self-grandiose, fucking Apprentice. And that was, I mean, at one point, I remember I had to stop watching. I liked The Apprentice in the beginning. Then I just realized how cheesy and stupid he was. I stopped watching. I thought it was a brilliant show in the beginning. I really did. I thought, okay, these unambiguous or these ambiguous kind of non-concrete problems that you have to try to solve in an instant. Okay, this is cool. This is up my alley. And then you could just see how much of an idiot their whole family was and how crappy how horrible a person. That's also along the same times he started attacking Obama about not being born in the country. So I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't had a long history of kind of animus towards Trump, but we've known what we've got with Trump. And it's quite frankly obvious to folks that don't like him that we know what we're getting. And so people try to take that same line of attack and say, we don't know what we're getting with Kamala Harris. We don't know who she is. And then you kind of look at what she's done and you say, okay, so you're saying she slept her way to the top. Well, let's see what her record is. So first of all, in 2004, she was elected as the district attorney of San Francisco. The first person of color, the first woman of color elected as the district attorney of San Francisco. She was elected, okay? And then she was reelected in 2017. Then she ran for Attorney General of California. She won that, and then she became the first woman, the first African American, and the first South Asian American to hold the office. So, and then, by the way, she was then reelected. So this is a person who's not accomplished anything, okay, who ran for first office. Her first time she ran for office, she won as district attorney. She won the re-election. Then she ran as attorney general, won a re-election. Then she ran as U.S. Senator in 2016, and she was elected as the U.S. Senator. So this is a person that they're saying has done nothing, but obviously has been chosen by the people who are like, well, it's California. Okay. That is actually absolutely amazing. The fact that she was elected as a senator from California, which is one of the most populous states, and she was elected as the first woman, the first African American woman, the first Asian American woman. This is amazing. This is a person that they're saying simultaneously has not accomplished anything. Now, can you imagine if your daughter, your grandma, your mom, your niece, your nephew, your whatever, some woman in your life has this track record? Let's just say she failed at every single position she's done, and she's done nothing at them. However, she's magically just gotten reelected at every position she's in. And they would come to you and say, you know what? She's not done anything. She's slept her way to the top. It doesn't even compute. It doesn't even make sense. All it is, it's an old trope that's easy to slap on to somebody because they have old, kind of naive viewpoint on the world, a very narrow view of the world. And so this makes sense to them. Say, oh, yeah, you know what? I don't like her, so I can't understand how someone like that could accomplish anything. So it must be something that she's done that I don't understand, which most likely I'm going to just throw sex in there. She must be doing something sexual to get there. She must have been just slapped into that position by somebody that decided because of her race. No, this woman was elected to every position I just mentioned, elected and then reelected. And then she was elected as the first female, first black, first South Asian vice president. She was elected on the ticket with Joe Biden. She was not a deterrent for people voting for Joe Biden. She was elected. So let's just talk about her accomplishments. Let's not talk about, they want to go into detail about how they know, well, she was, against black folks out as the district attorney for San Francisco. And I can understand how it's going to be easy to frame any prosecutor or district attorney or anybody that works for attorney general. You can easily frame them as being somebody that was too tough on crime, because that position requires you to be the vigilante for crime. You are the top law enforcement officer of the state when you're attorney general. And so this notion that they're going to try to soil her reputation by saying, oh, she was just a really good prosecutor. And by the way, I'm not saying that's a bonus for her. You could certainly argue against, as you know, I've done on the show, that I'm not a big fan of how the justice system works. I'm not a fan of how it works locally. And I understand if you're in that position she was in, she probably had to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have approved of to continue to maintain her job and get elected. But to say that she's not done anything is absolutely atrocious. It's such a lie of great proportions. And then to insert these kind of female tropes that she's done it for because of these sexual things, it's just bizarre. And then you have their candidate who has done nothing. Put it into ChatGPT, put in their comparison and just suggest, and you can say ChatGPT's biased. I don't understand how you could say that with something to this effect. But if you say what the political, kind of career path of both of those two people, you could say one has not accomplished much and kind of ridden the coattails of white privilege, daddy's money, all kinds of things you could say. And the other had to kind of break this glass ceiling continuously, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Every single time she was elected, she's breaking or shattering some glass ceiling that existed before her. So, I don't see how these women, these men who have daughters, wives, grandmas, can say that this woman hasn't accomplished anything. You may not like what she's done in office, but you can't say that somebody that has this record of getting elected by the people hasn't done anything. That alone is a huge endeavor that you can't discount. It's a magnificent endeavor. It really, even if she, like I said, she sucked at every single position, but the people reelected her. I would be bragging about this person who I knew, who was familiar to me. If they were my niece, my aunt, my nephew, I'd be like, oh yeah, she's probably one of the most accomplished people in our family. This person is so accomplished and done so many things. What's she done? Well, she was elected. Okay, now you can start to break down her record, which is fair for every single politician. But don't start with she's not accomplished anything. It's just not a fair assessment. And it makes you seem silly, and it makes you really seem silly when you start injecting all the other weird shit that you say, oh, DEI hire, racial undertones, and then there's sexual undertones of women can't get ahead. And by the way, when you say that she slept her way to the top, as I say before, that means that you're in your mind, in your vision, your utopia, there's a man at the top that somehow is determining who gets to be along with them by deciding on who they sleep with. Now, we know that patriarchy exists. We know that shit's real. But even the framing of it just says a lot about how you think about your world. To me, it tells a lot about your worldview. So to start out by saying that this woman hasn't accomplished anything, and then just looking at the fact that she was elected, kind of breaks down all the walls of like, okay, she's not done anything. Now, you can really get into get into the details, pull the onion layers back of what it's like to be a prosecutor and then climb up the ladder through that track that she's taken. you can certainly take a line of attack that you could say that, you know what, she's been one of those folks that has backed the blue. And so Republicans are kind of walking themselves into this argument where they're suggesting that what they like about her, what Democrats won't like about her, are all the things that they would. So they don't even realize this, but they're saying, oh, she was tough on crime and she did this and she was doing this as district attorney. And meanwhile, some of the people that are listening are saying, oh, wait, that's kind of what we like in our folks. We want them to be tough on crime. And by the way, Democrats listening to this are going, yeah, this isn't the greatest thing about our candidate. There isn't a perfect candidate. Barack Obama wasn't perfect. Neither is Ronald Reagan perfect. None of these candidates that these parties hold up in high esteem, legendary status, weren't perfect, aren't perfect. And so what makes them a good candidate or a good president is when they can sell the benefits and the ideas of the party platform. And Barack Obama was a good orator, good salesperson. And I think Kamala Harris is going to be a better salesperson than what Joe Biden was doing at the end of his term. But then when you try to talk about, like, okay, let's talk about, you know, the issues that may or may not be affecting how Democrats perceive her as a progressive candidate. These arguments that they're making that she's not accomplished anything, while simultaneously saying that she's the most radical leftist candidate ever to exist in the face of the earth. That's one of the other attacks. And then when you start talking about the radical left agenda, you start seeing that she was in law enforcement. And so this radical left agenda doesn't make sense or doesn't apply. Now, when she was vice president of the United States, and certainly as a senator, she was a proponent of women's rights, women's health. I mean, that's a negative according to Republicans. But again, this is a place where Republicans are going to look really, really frail when they're talking about a woman up on stage versus Donald Trump, who brags about essentially curbing some of the opportunities for what are available to women in their under women's health. And again, I label everything that has to do with abortion services, reproductive health, women's health, because it's a woman's health issue. And so you're going to have this kind of real, you know, when people are saying, oh, she's not done anything, and then you're going to have her on stage with Donald Trump. Well, hopefully. I mean, right now we're going back and forth with figuring out whether or not we're going to debate and who's going to debate it. It doesn't matter. Once they're both on stage, you're going to see a stark difference between a woman who had to kind of claw her way through and break glass ceilings, take all the abuse, and Donald Trump, who was handed an empire, essentially could have put all his money into index and been just as wealthy as he is now. So it's not like he's done some magnificent thing with his money and his talents. All he's done is essentially kind of do status quo white privilege. Everything comes easy, two-tier justice system on my side. And you're going to have him facing Kamala Harris, who they're going to say has done nothing, who they're going to say and continue to say she's stupid and she's not accomplished. And so it's a line of attack for many reasons. For one of them, because it's not landing, but two, they're also putting themselves in a hole to say this woman's not smart, she's not accomplished anything. And so now the bar for her up on stage is to be coherent and, you know, let Trump talk and be incoherent. And then all she's got to do is kind of be coherent. This is the bar they're setting for themselves. So, you know, I have folks in my inbox saying she's not smart. You don't know anything about her. You need to read. You're stupid because you don't pay attention. She's not really smart. And so I'm like, okay, so this not so smart person that you're claiming has not done a whole lot, who was elected so many times and broke so many glass ceilings, to me is a huge, brings a lot of appeal to this fighter that we got. You're going to tell me that she's also stupid. And so simultaneously, we're watching Donald Trump pivot to figure out whether or not he's going to actually be on stage with this person. I mean, it's mind-blowing, right? So again, I said this the other day. I'm not trying to overplay this word. I'm not trying to be fancy. But this superposition of perspectives that exist simultaneously, you know, not logically existing in the same kind of space, that are conflicting in so many ways, again, captures the chaos that exists in the mindset of the Republican Party right now. It's confusion because they've been so locked up in the cult of personality and building that cult of personality to attack another cult of personality, that this boogeyman they've created, this Joe Biden old guy, that now that's been replaced, everything falls apart. And they can't just say, oh, cult of personality versus new cult of personality, because they haven't had time to build up the cult of personality of Kamala. They're trying to in real time. They're failing. They're flailing. And we're seeing that Kamala Harris has done the thing that no one's been able to do, and that's take the oxygen away from Donald Trump and keep the momentum in her favor. The weird label that Democrats are attacking, finally it's landing. And most likely it's landing because the press is also picking it up because they're saying it so consistently. They're doing what Republicans did. They're marching in unison. A little bit scary because Democrats never do that. Like I said, right now, Democrats have played, they essentially held their bet, raised the ante, raised it, then laid down a royal flush. Everyone was shocked. And right now, there's nothing better than to watch Donald Trump squirm because the Republican Party's built up this cult of personality, lacking substance in the ideas of what actually works for people. Right now, you're going to see some market turning. You're going to see, Wall Street's already shaking the wheels of the stock market by saying, oh, the major crash in the stock market showing fears of the economy. And this is going to be the thing for the next couple months. And you're going to see that turn. You're going to see people making money either way. It happens every single time Democrats have the capability to win. You'll see Wall Street play with the knobs. If you don't think it's knobs, remember when we were in COVID and those knobs didn't move? We had nobody working and the stock market was kind of still going up because they weren't ready to quite turn the knobs at this point. So they kind of kept it going. And I remember there were jobs reports suggesting, no jobs, market's still going. Oopsies. People were like, shit, we better fucking kind of turn it down along with everything else so we can still use this as a metric of the economy. By the way, I invest in Wall Street. I invest in stocks and yada, yada. But, they're knobs. They're huge knobs. They're big players that can turn knobs. I'm a firm believer. It's not conspiratorial. We talk about how people can be market movers and everything else. Same thing can happen when political zeitgeist changes. The winds change. The winds of time change. Investors can get itchy. Hey, look, all my money I put in renewables, now it's going to be lost. All the money I have in fossil fuels, I need to make sure Republican is elected. So I'm going to turn the knobs in this. I'm going to change this. These are real things. It's not conspiratorial. So you're going to have that fear coming in. That's their play. But they're lost on Well, what are you going to do for the American people? What are you going to do about inflation? What are you going to do about all these things that Democrats are trying to address with real policies, with real lines of or approaches, with real things that are based on data? And you have Republicans lost in this world of political attacks, and Donald Trump is just this savior, and he's the martyr for their cause. Whatever their cause is, it's to leave it to the states to do whatever the fuck they want. So you can go to this state and be completely a criminal while you move to this state and you're completely fine. And that's if you're a woman carrying a child, for Pete's sakes. This is crazy shit that's happening. And you have these two things on stage right now when you have Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. They don't know what to do with it. So I'm loving it. The reason I wanted to call this show Kamala Belle was because, more cowbell. I had that little stint where I wasn't feeling good. So I'm watching, kind of gritting my teeth saying, man, I wish I could talk. I wish I could be clear-minded about what's going on because it's fantastic to see. And prior to me kind of taking that little tiny sabbatical with reruns, I was talking about the real fear I had in Democrats unifying or kind of scatterifying behind Joe Biden and living behind this false idea that he's okay when we watch what we watch. So everything just kind of panned out perfectly right now. Now, as I say that, I know tongue in cheek, I remember other moments in the past feeling good, feeling not really confident, feeling uneasy when Hillary was facing Donald Trump and those votes were coming in. I remember the day before thinking, you know what? I'm scared. People are motivated with Trump. So I'm hoping that the spirit of hope and change that I felt when I was in the Obama campaign is with Kamala Harris. And I think the folks that same feeling, you might not call it hope and change, but the same feeling was on the Trump campaign in 2016, which is why he won. And so my thought is that needs to be with Kamala Harris. She's doing a good job taking that excitement. I'm talking to a lot of folks that, white folks talking about how they're contributing and everything else. And look, I have a lot of white friends. So then they come to me and say, what about the black folks? I'm like, don't worry about the black folks. Fucking get your ass to the fucking polls. You have this narrative that black folks are not going to vote for Kamala Harris, which is total shit. I can tell you right now, it's total shit. People aren't stupid. It's not a monolithic group either. I know I have folks in my timeline that are like, hey, I'm black and I'm over for Trump. I know. I don't respect you. I think you're a moron for it, because I think you haven't really invested in understanding the psyche behind of what makes Donald Trump tick. Otherwise, you're voting for your abuser. Just that's how I think of it. But anyway, there's financial reasons to vote for Trump that people are going to make because they are in a high tax bracket, or at least they want to be. But when it comes down to character, integrity, the things that represent what we want ourselves to appear to in the rest of the world, he has none of that. And Kamala Harris represents the melting pot of what United States is. She's accomplished. She was elected to every single position she's had since 2004. So when people come at you and say she's not accomplished anything, she was voted and reelected every single time she ran for something and broke through glass ceilings that moms, grandmas, any woman could be proud of. So let's just start there. Whether or not she was tough on crime as a DA or attorney general, fair game. But we got to start with that she's a very accomplished politician who was well liked by the people, elected, reelected, and then, obviously had enough credibility to be selected as the vice president of the United States, who now is the forerunner, still the underdog, by the way. But I mean, this is the attack line they're having. And so again, it's one of those moments for me that's like your line of attack is based in some other universe where that's not real. To say this person has not done anything, and then you look at what she's accomplished and how she got there, there's no dick sucking bullshit that you can do to get people to vote for you. I mean, that's a lot of people potentially to have to fillet, and not even, I don't want to just take that and be crummy about it. But the truth is, it doesn't even make sense to suggest that this person hasn't been wanted by the people to be in every position she's been in. So I just felt like that was important to say. I'm not able to, and I'm trying to stay away from just the petty bullshit conversations that I see. And you can say that I'm petty and I talk about some things. Maybe you don't like the way I talk about Trump, but it's a non-starter when somebody starts using words like libtard or murder babies or the Demorats, or, you know what I mean? It's just like, then same thing when somebody starts talking about how she's not accomplished anything. She's not done anything. I just like, all right, so that, I just think like that person must really think I've done nothing in my life, because I've not done half the shit she's done. And so, I mean, this bar that this person has just is unreasonable. And so I don't see how we can have a conversation about her legislative abilities that you don't like when you've already said she hasn't done anything. So you can say that she's a very accomplished politician, elected, well-liked. I don't like anything she did as a politician. And here's the things I don't like. Fine. Great. We're off to a great start. I can have that conversation. I can't have the conversation she's done nothing, and what about her fucking, her tough on crime? Okay. No, she's not done nothing and then also been tough on crime. It doesn't even make sense what you just asked me. So, I'm just putting this out there that, I'm less interested in engaging in stupid ass fucking banter that means absolutely nothing. And it's the wrong framing. It's the wrong, like, you just know, like, I can't try to teach you the fucking alphabet when I have a fucking book in front of you. You know what I mean? You're asking about the fucking alphabet and how sounds and how to read. And I'm fucking presenting a book in front of you. And it's like, I don't have time for this. Go fucking like learn how to read and then come back to reality. And then we can talk about it. Because you may have some convincing arguments to me to say, you know what? She's not that progressive, which I'm going to tell you, I don't believe as her as being a progressive bastion of, you know, progressive ideas for the left. I don't think of that. Although Republicans somehow are trying to frame her as the most radical leftist agenda ever. Again, I don't think she's very progressive. I know it's not a very progressive path that she took as the leading law enforcement of California with all the crazy stuff going on there. I can imagine that she's kind of towed the line that was very conservative from a progressive perspective. Those are okay lines of attack, but you can't say this woman hasn't accomplished anything. You can't say she's done, you know, she's kind of slept her way to the top without just saying that this is kind of a stereotype that you believe is common, and any woman that accomplishes this thing, maybe you haven't accomplished as much, and maybe you felt that you could have had you done this. I don't know what the psyche is behind women saying this about other women. Other than, you know, jealousy and rage and all that stuff. But it just doesn't make sense when we're talking about Kamala Harris. And you look at the fact that she's been, you know, widely, you know, appreciated by her constituents and reelected so many times. So I'm going to wrap because I don't really want to go on about it too much. You know, I just wanted to come on and just address the fact that let's have a real conversation about the things that we don't like about Kamala Harris. I think we're going to find that the left is going to find that she's not that progressive, and Republicans can certainly paint that picture, but they're going to have to do that while admitting that she was very tough on crime or whatever, the things that they like. So, you know, they're going to have to peel away their own support. The folks that are going to vote for Kamala Harris no matter what are anti-Trump. They know better. They see the future of this country. So the folks that are going to be on the fence right now are folks that kind of tap in and go, well, she hasn't done anything. And then they're going to simultaneously hear, well, she did all this stuff that was hard on crime and she was all this. And maybe that person leans a little conservative and they're like, I can't deal with Trump. But hey, you know what? This person understands law enforcement. I'm going to vote for her. I mean, if you're a police person, if you're a person that works in law enforcement, the law and order candidate is clearly Kamala Harris. But I don't know if the folks in law enforcement, or at least the ones locally, understand enough about to see what is in their best interest while they simultaneously support unions that support the security of their job. I don't have a lot of faith in the education of our law enforcement to believe that they can even go that deep. It's like, ooh, Donald Trump. I remember going to a class reunion where a classmate who was a police officer pulled out a picture with Donald Trump, and I was just like... It was almost like, yeah. It's like I was in a fucking locker room in fucking high school again. It was weird. Like, that is the fucking dumbest thing to pull out in front of me. But anyway, so I don't have a lot of faith that they understand that Kamala Harris is probably the candidate that would understand their plight much, much more than Donald Trump, who just wants to give them blanket immunity. And if you're a cop and you're thinking that blanket immunity is a good thing, I question why you should even be in that position. You have to understand, with all the bad things that go on, how that's not a good thing to give anyone that kind of power, let alone the president of the United States immunity. And now we're just going to deputize locals with immunity just because they're cops. I mean, it's bizarro fucking even for the most right wing of us. So anyway, going back to Kamala Harris, I don't want to go off. You know how I feel about law enforcement, and the fact that we have police officers is indicative of less safety. More police, less safe. Those are the rules, folks. Those are the rules of the universe. It's not my rules. That's just how it works. Think about it. The safest place you go, have the least amount of police. Anyway, Kamala. She's killing it. I I don't really believe it matters who she picks as a VP. I'll just wrap with that. I don't think it matters at all. I think whoever she picks will be able to pick apart J.D. Vance because he's dug such a big hole for himself and kind of captured the weird, creepy vibe for the Republican Party and their next generation. I mean, he's changed his name 4 times. It's weird alone. He wasn't sure if he was gay. He believes in conversion therapy. I know he married an Indian person. I'm not sure how that conflicts with the fact that she is now producing anchor babies. I don't know what it means for him, but I think that anyone that they put up against him will be able to kind of break it down. So Kamala's killing it. And I think we're going to see, I'm hoping that this lasts. I mean, it's a while. Obviously the convention's going to happen. She's got to kind of solidify that support. But if she can continue to keep it weird for Republicans and make them off center, I think she can continue to peel off those states that are close, and Donald Trump will dig his own hole. So more Kamala, Belle. And I'm excited about it. That's all I'm going to do tonight. I will say numbers are great. Facebook, I'm not really ready to cut my, umbilical cord. Umbilical cord? Yeah, I'm not really willing to cut the umbilical cord from Facebook right now because the numbers are too good. They're really good. Like, I mean, I had in a month 165,000 impressions. So that's good. That's really good. That's more than I had before. But then YouTube suffers. I don't have any people watching YouTube. And, that's kind of where I want to grow. But look, I'm just happy to be doing it. I'm happy to be clear-headed. I'm happy that people still listen. I still get folks that come up to me on the street and say, hey, nice work. I listen to your podcast. So I appreciate it. I'm just a one-person show here trying to just have fun as well as trying to share my thoughts on what's going on. Hopefully find some folks, like-minded folks, that get fired up and want to make changes as well. Some things I talk about are radical, but I love what I'm doing. So make sure you support it. Make sure you follow. Make sure you come out and vote, whatever your party is. I'm just glad to be back. Like I said, I started off the show by just thanking the universe for my healing and my tinnitus and how I've been dealing with it. I'm not cured by any means, but it is. I'm excited to say that I've kind of figured out and tapped into something that's managed it well, and I'm feeling great. So continue to support it. There's a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe that I'm excited about, that I'm just going to say it because I always kind of lead you on that way, but I don't want to make it, I don't want to just ruin it. So just stay tuned, keep listening, keep supporting it, keep liking, keep sharing, keep saying hi, and, watch as I level up. All right. That's all I got for today, folks. I'm out of here.